In 1180 London, there was a public cookshop on the Thames that never closed. Not on Sundays, not on Christmas, not ever. It served every rank of person: nobles, sailors, beggars, apprentices. And it did that 900 years before DoorDash existed. This was medieval England's first fast food restaurant, and its own contemporary chronicler could not quite believe it was there. His name was William Fitzstephen. He was a clerk in the household of Thomas Becket, and around the year 1180, he wrote the first detailed description of London ever recorded. In it, he described the Thames-side cookshop like this: "There is a public eating house. Every day, according to the season, you may find roast and boiled meat, fish, large and small, coarser flesh for the poor, delicate for the rich, such as venison and small birds. Every day, according to the season, for every social class." Fitzstephen wrote it casually, as if this was already old news by 1180, which means the medieval fast food economy was already ancient when he picked up his quill. By the end of the next 20 minutes, you will understand what medieval England actually ate when it wanted junk food. You will see the meat pies so dangerous, London passed a law to ban what was inside them. You will meet the pretzel, blessed by the Catholic Church. And you will hear the shopkeepers who were dragged through the streets with their own bad bread tied around their necks. And you will meet one boy who ate all of it. His name is Watt. 17 years old, apprentice mason at the rebuild of old St. Paul's Cathedral. And in his entire life, he has never once cooked a meal for himself. Watt is 17 years old, and he is one of the reasons the medieval fast food economy existed. He works 6 days a week on the scaffolding of old St. Paul's Cathedral, the massive Norman rebuild that has been going on in the middle of London for 100 years and will keep going for 100 more. His job is to haul stone. He wears a rough wool tunic, a leather belt, and a small canvas bag of tools. He earns 2 pence a day. 2 pence, that is enough to keep him alive, barely. And here is what those 2 pence cannot buy him: a kitchen. Watt sleeps in a shared upper floor room in a wooden tenement near Cheapside. He shares it with 4 other apprentices. There is no hearth, there is no cooking pot, there is no chimney above them. Chimneys in 1180 London were a luxury only wealthy households could afford. Fuel was expensive. Firewood, charcoal, and peat all had to be hauled in from the countryside and sold by weight. A working boy like Watt could not afford it. And even if he could, he had no legal fire in his room to burn it in. His stomach knew this before his brain did. In 1180 London, the majority of working-class residents could not cook at home. They physically had no way to do it, which meant that every single meal, every single day, had to be bought hot from someone else's fire. That was the economy Fitzstephen was watching. That was why the cookshop on the Thames never closed. Watt wakes at dawn. His stomach is empty. His purse holds 2 pence from yesterday. He steps out into the cold London morning. Thames Street is already alive, and the smell hits him from 100 meters away. Cook's Row was not a street name we would find on a modern map, but in 1180 London, if you asked anyone where to eat, they would send you here. A short lane branching off Bread Street, close enough to the Thames that boats unloading fish had a straight walk to the Cauldrons. Fitzstephen names it in his description, and what Watt walks into is one of the most sensory streets in the medieval world. The first thing is the smoke. Every shop has a hearth burning openly, some outside on the cobbles, some just inside the doorway. Vendors have deliberately positioned their grills at the street's edge. This is not a ventilation problem. This is marketing. The medieval cookshop learned early, that the smell of hot fat and roasting meat did more for sales than any painted sign. Bristol cooks would later formalize the practice, cooking on hearths on the pavement itself, food you could smell from streets away. Then, the sound. Wafer irons hissing shut on batter, the dull knock of pies dropping onto wooden boards, sellers shouting prices, cauldrons of pottage bubbling, small roast birds, quail, sparrows, thrushes, stacked in wooden trays by the dozen. Then the food, meat pies in a heavy pastry shell. The medievals called it a coffyn, pasties folded into half circles, fritters glazed with honey, small round hot cakes that could be eaten in one bite, wafers pressed in iron molds and stamped with the crucifixion, and pottages, thick stews ladled into hollowed-out slabs of stale bread. The bread was the plate. When you finished the stew, you ate the plate. A hot pie cost roughly 1 penny, half of Watt's daily wage. But it was hot, it was filling, and it would last him until the sun was overhead. He hands over his coin, he gets his pie, and the meat inside it may have been sitting on that grill for 2 days already. The meat pie in Watt's hands is the medieval hamburger. Hot, portable, greasy, filling. The single most popular fast food item in medieval England. It is also the most dangerous thing he could put in his mouth. The pie's genius was its shell. Medieval bakers called the pastry casing a coffyn, a rigid, thick, tomb-like crust designed to seal the filling inside. In wealthy kitchens, the coffyn was cracked open at the table, so guests could eat the meat within, and the crust itself was often discarded. In cookshops, the crust was cheaper to make than the meat, and it did something no other food container could do at the time. It hid the smell of spoiled meat. In 1219, a report from Norwich documented cooks knowingly using diseased pork in their pies and serving them to customers without a second thought. It was not an isolated case. 2 centuries later, in 1379, the City of London passed an ordinance that officially banned cookshops from reusing unsold pie meat after 1 day, which means that until 1379, doing exactly that was legal, routine, and expected. By the late 14th century, the reputation was so bad that Geoffrey Chaucer put a real London cook into the Canterbury Tales. His name was Roger of Ware. He is documented in London city records as an active pie maker. In Chaucer's story, Roger has an open sore on his shin that he cannot stop scratching while he cooks. The other pilgrims tease him about the pies he sells. Everyone in Chaucer's audience laughed because they knew exactly which pie. There was a medieval saying that survived from this world. God sends the meat, but the devil sends the cooks. But the merchants selling this rotten food were not operating without consequences. When they got caught, medieval London had a very specific punishment waiting for them, one designed to be seen. Medieval London did not wait for the modern food inspector to arrive. It built its own version 600 years before the FDA existed, and it did not rely on paperwork. In 1266, King Henry III passed the Assize of Bread and Ale, the earliest documented food safety regulation in English history. The law set standards for how much a loaf of bread should weigh at every given price of grain, and it prescribed a very specific punishment for bakers who cheated their customers. The baker caught selling an underweight loaf was tied to a horse or hurdle. His fraudulent bread was strung around his neck on a rope, and he was dragged through the streets of the city he had cheated. Every neighbor saw him. Every customer he had defrauded saw him. That was the point. Butchers caught selling rotten meat faced the pillory, a wooden frame that clamped a man's head and hands in place at the level of a passing crowd's fists. The spoiled meat was often hung from the frame beside his own face for hours. In 1364, London took the same principle further. A city ordinance ordered that any taverner caught watering his wine be forced to drink his own diluted product in public, in front of the customers he had cheated, until the container was empty. The people enforcing all of this were called the guild wardens, trade members whose own reputations depended on the honesty of their industry. They walked the markets daily, checking weights, smelling meat, spot-checking bread against the assize table. The punishments were savage on purpose. In a medieval city, food fraud could spark actual riots, because bread was not commerce, bread was survival. But not every medieval junk food had a shady reputation. Some of them were blessed by the Pope, and one of them is still in every American baseball stadium tonight. The pretzel is 900 years old. A monk invented it, and the Pope endorsed it. Somewhere in Europe, the exact origin is still debated between Italy, France, and southern Germany. A monk in the early Middle Ages took 3 ingredients and shaped them into a knot that would still be sold in every American baseball stadium 1,000 years later. Water, flour, salt, 3 ingredients that any household or cookshop could produce, in a shape that could be baked hard and stored for weeks. The medieval equivalent of a shelf-stable snack. But what made the pretzel a Christian institution was the Catholic Church. During Lent, the 6-week fast leading up to Easter, meat, dairy, and eggs were forbidden for the entire faithful population of medieval Europe. 46 days of drastically limited eating. The pretzel, containing none of those forbidden foods, became the officially sanctioned snack of the Lenten season. Vendors sold them on Cook's Row alongside the same pies Watt was eating, and the church put them to work. Medieval monks handed pretzels to children who could correctly recite their prayers. It is one of the earliest documented uses of food as an educational reward. Get the words right, get the treat. The shape itself was symbolic. The 3 holes represented the Holy Trinity. The knotted arms represented a child folding her hands in prayer. The Latin word bracelle, little arms, is the likely root of the pretzel's name. By 1180, the pretzel was in every fair, every church festival, and every hand at Watt's church on a Sunday. But Lent did not just give medieval London the pretzel, it gave it an alcohol problem, the kind a Benedictine monk called out by name. Ale in medieval England was not a treat, it was survival. Small ale, a weak, watery beer with an alcohol content of about 1%, was the daily beverage of every adult, every apprentice, and every child in medieval London. The reason was practical. Untreated water in a 12th century city was dangerous. It carried sewage, animal waste, and disease. Fermentation killed what was in it. Small ale did not get you drunk, it got you hydrated safely. An average adult drank close to a gallon of small ale every day. Children drank it from the age they could hold a cup. It was breakfast, it was lunch, it was dinner. Watt carried a small leather flask of it on his belt to the scaffold. The stronger ales were saved for celebration and for the tavern. The alehouses of medieval London were the social heart of the city, warmer than home, cheaper than firewood, where men and women drank together, gossiped, gambled at dice, made deals, and slept when they could not walk back to their tenements. The 1266 assize that regulated bread also regulated ale, because both were considered survival goods by the crown. And then there was Lent. Lent banned meat. It banned eggs. It banned dairy. It did not ban ale. In the year 1400, a Benedictine monk named Robert Ripon delivered a sermon calling this out by name. He accused the common people of getting more drunk during Lent than during the entire rest of the year because they had nothing else to consume. If you could not eat meat, you could still drink your calories. And the people of medieval London did exactly that for 6 weeks every spring. But there was one thing in medieval London that could make even the drunkest tavern patron stop and stare, because it cost more than his monthly wage. The sugar you have in your kitchen right now would have bankrupted a medieval English labourer. In the 14th century, sugar's retail price in England ran between £1 and £2 sterling per pound of sugar. A working man like Watt, earning 2 pence a day, would have needed roughly 120 days of labour to buy a single pound of it. So it was not for him. Sugar sat on the tables of nobles and monasteries. It was used as medicine, as showpiece, as diplomatic gift. The famous subtleties at royal banquets, elaborate edible sculptures of castles, dragons and ships, were built out of it, and sometimes gilded with real gold leaf. For everyone else, there was honey. Honey-based fritters were the medieval donut. Fried dough, sometimes stuffed with ginger and almonds, drizzled hot with honey and sold from cookshops at fairs. At St. Bartholomew's Fair in London, held every August from the year 1133, gingerbread was pressed into shapes of saints and knights, and the wealthiest versions were gilded with real gold leaf. Funnel cakes were called crisps in medieval Europe. There were cuskinolls, a real medieval English name for a real medieval snack, sweet fruit-filled ravioli, boiled and then sugared. A medieval hostess pastry, 700 years old, and there were waffles, which are older than you think. The Greeks were making waffles in the 5th century BC. They called them obelios. Medieval Catholic churches turned them into ecclesiastical wafers stamped with biblical scenes. The Dutch added the grid pattern in the 1400s. The waffle iron in your kitchen has a 2,500-year-old design history. And here is the strangest thing about all of this. Medieval junk food did not die when the Middle Ages ended. It is on your plate right now. You just do not recognize it. Every medieval junk food we have talked about in this video is still being sold somewhere in the world right now. The pretzel your child eats at a baseball game is a direct descendant of the 12th century Catholic Lent snack. Same 3 ingredients, same knotted shape, same purpose. A shelf-stable snack you can eat with one hand. The waffle you had for breakfast this morning traces back to ancient Greek obelios via the medieval Catholic wafer iron. The Dutch grid pattern, added in the 15th century, is now the standard on every waffle iron sold on Earth. The fritter Watt could not quite afford in 1180 became the American donut. Same fried honey-sweetened dough, same fair food format. The trencher, the hollowed-out bread bowl Watt scooped pottage from at Cook's Row, is still served in San Francisco with clam chowder inside it. Panera Bread built a national restaurant chain on the medieval trencher. The medieval meat pie became the Cornish pasty, the pot pie, the empanada, the samosa, wherever hot food had to be carried, handheld, and eaten on the move. This design won. Gingerbread is still on the Christmas cookie tray, unchanged in principle since it was pressed into saints at St. Bartholomew's Fair in 1133. Funnel cakes still exist, still deep-fried, still powdered with sugar, still sold from stalls at fairs. The stalls are just made of steel now. And the food truck, the icon of urban modernity, is Fitzstephen's 12th century Thames-side cookshop. Same economics, same physics, same customer, 900 years apart. So what does this actually tell us about the people who invented all of it? The sun is setting over Thames Street. Watt has finished his day on the scaffold at St. Paul's. 14 hours of hauling stone in November light. His shoulders ache. His hands are raw. His purse holds 2 more pence he did not have this morning. He walks past the cookshops on his way home. They are all still open. They will be open through the night. The smell of hot pies still hangs in the cold air. The wafer irons are still hissing. The vendors are still shouting. The medieval English world that produced all of this was not a primitive backwater. It was a sophisticated urban food service economy, inspected by guild wardens, regulated by assize law, punished by the pillory when it cheated, and open 24 hours a day when it worked. The people who built it were early consumers, early food safety officials, early regulators. They faced the same problems we face: cheap food against healthy food, convenience against safety, class access against community. They solved those problems with the tools they had. The distance between them and us is not intelligence, it is time. Every convenience store you have ever walked into, every food truck window, every hand pie in a paper bag, every gingerbread man in December, all of it has a 900-year-old ancestor standing at a Thames-side stall in 1180 London, ladling stew into a hollowed-out bread bowl for a boy named Watt. If you want to see more of the moment's history left out, subscribe. Every week, Worlds Before Us rebuilds another piece of the past.